Hi everybody, NikLotus84 here. I just got back from seeing The Great Gatsby, and I had to record this just while it's fresh in my mind. I apologize in advance for all the ums and uhs and stutters and pauses you're probably going to hear in this, because I did not script this. I felt the need to just say what was on my mind because I wanted to convey just how deeply in love I fell with this movie. I mean, I went into it expecting to like it anyway because I am a Baz Luhrmann fan. I really, really like his adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. I adore Moulin Rouge. I also really love The Great Gatsby as a book. And so, really, a combination of one of my favorite filmmakers and one of my favorite books, how could I not like it? Even from the very start, I was sucked in. I know that most of you guys who are going to see this movie have read the book, but just to be safe, I'm going to try to keep my little mini review here as spoiler-free as possible. I loved the casting, every single person. Nick Carraway was beautifully cast. Tobey Maguire, he just did such a great job. I can see just from, I haven't seen a whole lot of Tobey Maguire's films, unfortunately, but from the Spider-Man movies a few years ago to now with this film, The Great Gatsby, he has matured so much as a performer. And I can kind of see a little bit of his Peter Parker in his Nick Carraway, but it's a lot more well-rounded and it's a lot more believable and it's a lot more relatable. This role suited him really well. The young, wide-eyed, excited to be in a new place guy who just kind of stumbles into the middle of all the drama. And eventually, he does learn and grow from it. And you can see that in Tobey Maguire's performance. It's amazing how much emotion this movie was able to convey about like 100-page book, something you could read in an afternoon. And I'm trying not to spoil too much here, but the way that the main story was framed, the approach that was taken to how Nick was telling the story was absolutely brilliant. And you see the development of Nick's character throughout the story, within the story, and it really just does such a good job of explaining what brought him to where he is at the beginning of the movie, telling his story. I really, really loved the take that this movie took on why Nick was telling this story about Gatsby and Daisy and Tom and all of these people that he left behind in New York. I think the tipping point that made me just absolutely fall head over heels in love with this film was the big reveal of Gatsby. I really can't think of a better person to play Gatsby than Leonardo DiCaprio. I had never really given it any thought before. I mean, I read the book and really liked it, and I was excited to hear about a movie being made, but I'd never really given any thought to who would be cast in each role. But Leonardo DiCaprio just gave an amazing performance as Jay Gatsby, and you already really like Jay Gatsby as a character in the book, or at least I did. But, of course, Leo brought Gatsby to life. You wanted to be this guy's friend. You wanted to go to those swank parties. Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, has always had this really huge screen presence, and he is an extremely talented actor. And dim eyes, right, ladies? But no, I mean, every time that he's on stage, anytime that his face is on the screen, that's what you're looking at. You're sucked into the scene. You're not watching a movie anymore. You are there. You are in Jay Gatsby's huge, swanky mansion in the middle of a raucous party. The wide-eyed optimism and energy that you saw in so many years ago Titanic when he was Jack. has aged really well for him to translate it to the almost verging on naive hope that Jay Gatsby has and personifies. I'm really not all that familiar with the actress who was cast as Daisy, but I really liked her in the role. She kind of embodied the kind of flighty, almost ethereal way that she moved and talked. She did that really well, I thought. At least my vision of her from reading the book. And you didn't latch on to her quite so much as, say, Gatsby himself did, because obviously he's desperately in love with her. But you do develop a relationship with her. You feel for her. You want her to be with Gatsby really badly. And the actor who played Daisy's husband, Tom, I've heard a couple of reviews that didn't really care much for his performance, but in my vision of these characters, when I read the book, I thought that this guy was spot on, just being a stuck-up, hypocritical jerkwad. A big gripe a lot of people had was the soundtrack, kind of the updated music with kind of some hip-hop-y stuff in there, but I thought it was great. It gave kind of a contemporary flair to an old story, but it still fit the atmosphere and the tone. It just fit the story so well because, people like to, I guess, put on the nostalgia goggles and whitewash the past like, oh, everything was so perfect and innocent back then. No, the 1920s. It even says in the book and in the script, morals were looser, booze was cheaper. I mean, it was a bawdy time. The updated music still reflected, kind of the era because it took some of the big band stuff that characterized 20s music, but then it still kind of took on a little bit more of the in-your-face attitude of more contemporary music. And I thought that it fit really well. Some people don't think that it fits, but I think it's perfect because it matches the unashamed ostentation of Gatsby, of the 1920s party scene, and Baz Luhrmann's style. I mean, I absolutely love Baz Luhrmann, and I know that he is the king of spectacle, bordering on tacky. And I absolutely love that. And it totally fits this story. There was kind of a 20s little jazzy version of Crazy in Love that they played at one point in the movie that I just thought was so much fun and so cute for the scene that it was in. And that's why I guess it all kind of comes together to become one of the most perfect movies I've ever seen. I know I sound like I'm totally fangirling out, but I really loved this movie. Casting was amazing. The music fit so well. The cinematography, of course, was gorgeous. And the parts, the party scenes and stuff that warranted the spectacle, it was definitely there. But then there were other scenes that were a little more dark and not quite so flashy when it was appropriate, some of the more dramatic scenes. This is actually the happiest that I have ever been with a movie adaptation of a book. It's obviously not verbatim, the perfect adaptation of the book, but it does the story justice. What it lacks in being exactly true to the story, it makes up for in, being mostly faithful to the story while giving the characters more dimension than you could ever see or read on paper. You really are in the scene with them. You feel like a 1920s socialite, fly on the wall kind of. I find I'm using a few adjectives more times than I should. I apologize for the superlative abuse I'll admit it, I am fangirling a little because just, I can't even find the words. I can't even. I don't even. This movie, I don't even. It's just fantastic. And of course, the huge sap that I am, I admit I cried at the end of the movie. Partially from just the emotional journey I had just taken through this film. Partially because of some events that happened in the film. I'm not going to spoil them for people who don't know. And I cried because it was just such a beautiful representation of a story that I really, really enjoyed when I read it. It was glamorous and spectacular and emotional and raw and real and fantastical and gritty and glittery all at once. I know I sound like a broken record, but I just love this movie. I'm definitely going to buy it on DVD or Blu-ray when it comes out. Because this is something I have to own. And this is something I have to show other people. And I know it sounds silly that a film based on what a lot of people view as just your run-of-the-mill high school required reading could be so just great. Like I said, I expected to like it going in, but it blew me away. It really did. It's been a long time since I've seen a movie that as soon as the credits rolled, I immediately wanted to make plans to come back and see it again. That's how good I thought it was. Anywho, that's my 2 cents on the Great Gatsby movie. I hope you guys enjoyed my silly ramblings on it. And if anybody else has an opinion, whether you agree or disagree, whatever, please leave it in the comments section or even post a video response. I love starting a dialogue about good books and about good movies based on good books. I am going to try to get this channel back off the ground with regular updates. I'm going to try to get myself on a schedule now that I'm, settled in where I am and I have a little bit of free time between the whole moving in business. So, I will see you later, old sports.